Welcome back to another week of the Pioneer Sideline, and we have another week of fun ahead. We'll be recapping you guys on the Point Park basketball teams, then we'll bring back the Pioneer playbook, and then we will transition to hot topics and local and national sports. So follow me as we head on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Kyle Anthony. We'll start off our coverage of the basketball teams by handing it over to Paul Daniels, who has the inside scoop for us on the men's team.
Thanks, Kyle. The men's team faced off against two important opponents in the KIC Colonial Division. Last Tuesday, they played West Virginia Tech at home, and it was a pretty close contest sparked by major runs offensively from Point Park. In both halves, the Pioneers trailed by double digits at one point in the game. They ended the first half all knotted up at 45 apiece, shooting 60% from the field and no turnovers. Then, in the second half, Point Park trailed 72-61 with about 11 minutes left in the game. A barrage of three-pointers and defensive stops from the Pioneers led them on a quick 13-2 run to tie things up with West Virginia Tech at 72 all. Point Park trailed by one with little time on the clock, and Kelvin Goodwin drove into the lane, pulled up, and hit the open jumper with 0.6 seconds left on the clock to put the Pioneers ahead 93-92 and gave them the victory. Jeremy Williams led the team with 32 points and 7 assists. Now moving on to the Rio Grande game on Saturday, no team could separate each other early on with a total of 13 ties and 11 lead changes in the game. It wasn't until late in the second half when Rio Grande took a double-digit lead with just 6 minutes left in the game. Point Park responded with a 14-0 run of their own and went ahead 85-80 with under a minute left in the game. The foul game was played by Rio Grande, but Point Park stood their ground and capped off another win in KIAC play, winning 92-89. The star players offensively in this one for the Pioneers included Fusani Kanate with 27 points and 11 boards, as well as Jeremy Williams with 24 points, putting him above the 1,000th point mark for his career at Point Park. The Pioneers will host their final regular season game at Carlo tonight at home, and will look to finish up with IU Southeast and IU Kokomo on the road.
Now, Paul, I guess this is the obvious question. Why does this team play down to their opponents and then play up to their opponents when they need to?
Yeah, this team seems to have a knack for going down early and quickly by double digits, but they have the resiliency to bounce back in those situations in the past few games, and they've done that, so you got to give them credit on that side.
Now, Paul, you're an old school Big East guy. How good are the Pioneer guards?
The guards are pretty excellent, actually. Jeremy Williams and Kelvin Goodwin, we didn't expect Kelvin Goodwin to be this good as late in the season. And Jeremy Williams, obviously a veteran, seasoned guard. He's putting up monstrous stats per game, so the guard play is exceptional for Point Park.
Paul, you know I always love hearing from an old Big East guy. Next, we'll go over to the women's side, where Mike Turk is waiting to tell us all about what we need to know.
The Point Park women's basketball team had two key KIAC matchups this week. Last Tuesday night, they battled against West Virginia Tech, and Carly Force had herself a career night. She had a career-high 30 points to go along with 9 rebounds. Force shot 11 of 18 from the field and was the only Pioneer in double figures. Alexis Zanakis finished with 9, and Caitlin Smith finished with 8 points. The Pioneers shot 17 of 20 from the free throw line for the game. A couple of those coming up clutch at the end to put the game on ice for the Pioneers. They ended up winning this one by a final score of 64-56. Back on January 2nd, Point Park traveled to Rio Grande and picked up a huge KIAC win in a game against the Red Storm. This past Saturday, it was round 2 of Point Park and Rio had the upper hand in this one. They held Point Park to shooting just 31% from the field and about 12% from three-point land. Rio only had a 3-point lead at halftime, but Point Park fell apart in the second half, getting outscored 43-28. Point Park lost the game by a final score of 75-57. Carly Force led the way with 17 points, and Shania Rivers chipped in 11. That loss dropped Point Park to a 9-4 KIAC record and 16-9 overall. They currently sit in third place of the KIAC Colonial Division. Their next games are tonight at 5:30 at home against Carlo, and then they will play their final home game this Thursday night, which is also senior night, at 7 against Midway.
Now, Mike, what happened against Rio? Because Point Park just got knocked out, man.
They weren't shooting the ball very well, and I talked to Coach Grenick after that game, and I said, Coach, what happened in this game that you lost by so many? You went to their place, and you played really well against them, and you were able to beat them on the road. He told me we just could not shoot the ball. That's been the story of the season for this Point Park team. He also told me I just need to recruit this offseason.
Now, Mike, how do you, I guess, improve that? I mean, you got 2 games left in the season, then you have playoffs. How do you improve your shooting, or do you make your team more defensive so you can win a playoff game?
They've focused around that defense a lot this season. They have one of the top defenses in the KIAC, in my opinion, this year, and statistically. They force a lot of turnovers. They bring a press, and they play into a Syracuse defense, which is a 2-3 zone. So that defense has been tight pretty much throughout the year, but if they don't start hitting these shots, it's going to be an early exit for this team.
Thanks, Mike. When we return, Trevor Sheets tells us who has been heating up the ice for the Penguins, and I will tell you what basketball team is now looking for a new head coach.
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
Start your morning with City News.
Start your morning with campus news.
Start your morning with political coverage.
Start your morning with fun.
Start your morning with us, only on Daybreak.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't stop. Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
We know you're wondering what the A-list celebrities are up to.
Well, here at Entertainment on Point, we're wondering too.
Have you heard about James Franco and Seth Rogen's new movie?
No, but have you heard Beyonce's new single?
Did you see what she was wearing on that red carpet?
Honey, that was not cute.
Did you see what happened on Scandal this week?
No, I was too busy keeping up with the Kardashians. No matter what your guilty pleasure is, we've got you covered.
Entertainment on Point. Get to the point of pop culture.
Yeah!
Welcome back to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Trevor Sheets with a look at the local sports headlines. The hottest player in the NHL coming out of the All-Star break may be Sidney Crosby, who was announced as the NHL Player of the Week, and his team has not been playing too badly either. Going into last night's game versus the Anaheim Ducks, the Pittsburgh Penguins were 2-1, but in those 3 games, the team was averaging 4 goals per game, and the offense didn't disappoint Monday night. Pittsburgh won the game against the Ducks 6-2, and Crosby once again was a major force in the game, scoring 2 goals and also assisting on 2 other goals in the game. Carl Hagelin scored a goal against his former team, And this is all done without the services of Evgeny Malkin, who missed a third straight game with a lower body injury, and it has been announced that he's going to be out for at least another week. Next for the Pens is a Wednesday night matchup with a team directly above Pittsburgh in the Metropolitan Division, the second-place New York Rangers. Moving to the college ranks, the Pitt Panthers are hitting a very crucial part of their schedule if they want any shot at the NCAA tournament. Pitt hosted the 7th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers Saturday afternoon at the Peterson Event Center. The Panthers stayed with Virginia in the first half, only trailing by 2 points at halftime. But in the second half, the Panthers went cold from the field, shooting only 38.1% and ended up losing the game 64-50. The road does not get any easier for Pitt either. The Panthers are currently in Coral Gables playing the 12th-ranked Miami Hurricanes and then go to Chapel Hill this Sunday to play the 9th-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels. Another year, another former Steeler has been elected to the NFL Hall of Fame. This time it is former Steelers linebacker Kevin Green. Green was elected after being named a finalist the last 5 years. Pittsburgh was Green's second team playing for the Black and Gold for 3 years, from 1993 to 1995, as part of his 14-year career that saw him play for the Rams, Panthers, and 49ers, in addition to the Steelers. Among Green's many accomplishments was being named to the Pro Bowl 5 times, having the 3rd most sacks in the history of the NFL with 160, and was voted a part of the NFL All-Decade Team for the 1990s. That's all I have this week in regional sports. Now over to Kyle for your national sports headlines.
Thanks, Trevor. We'll start out by recapping the biggest game of the season, where the Denver Broncos won their 3rd Super Bowl. The Broncos beat the Carolina Panthers 24-10. At the end of the first quarter of the game was 10-0 Broncos after a Brandon McManus field goal and a Malik Jackson touchdown on a Von Miller strip sack. The Carolina Panthers struck in the second quarter when Jonathan Stewart scored on a 1-yard rush. And at half, the game was 13-7. The second half was a defensive slugfest. It was one in which the only scoring was a Carolina field goal in the third and a Broncos rushing touchdown in the fourth. The game's MVP was Von Miller, who finished the game with 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. Peyton Manning was 13-23 for 141 yards. And on the other side of the field, Cam Newton was 18 for 41 for over 250 yards. Next, we'll go over to the NBA, where one team has made a mid-season coaching move. The New York Knicks have fired head coach Derek Fisher after the team has lost its 5th game in a row and 9th in their last 10 games. Currently, the team is 23-31 this season. In his first season as coach of the team, Fisher and the Knicks were 17-65. Kurt Rambis will be filling in as the team's interim coach. The Knicks are sitting as the 12th seed right now in the East. Lastly, we'll switch over to National Signing Day. Florida State had the best recruiting class in the country by adding 25 players to their roster. They were followed by some other powerhouse schools such as Alabama, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Michigan, and the University of Texas. The University of Michigan got the #1 recruit in the country, Rashawn Gary, a defensive tackle from New Jersey. After the break, Blaine King joins me to break down some of the big plays from the Super Bowl.
Here at the Pioneer Sideline, we get freshmen involved as quickly as possible so they get the real-world experience on air and behind the scenes to set themselves apart in internships and potential jobs. Blaine, where is that video? I needed it in KeyPro like yesterday.
All right, I got you, Chris. But I had a quick question for you guys.
What do you mean the questions? It's always a question. It's always a... What? Where is he? Blaine!
Blaine!
Blaine! Freshman, you can't find any good ones anymore.
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the 2nd floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
Welcome back to the sideline. We bring in Blaine King for another Pioneer Playbook. Blaine, what do you have for us this week?
All right, Kyle, we're going to go back 10 years
to
when the Steelers made their Super Bowl run. And there was a key play against the Bengals that the Steelers made that prevailed them to go on to Indianapolis and then to Denver and then to Detroit, where they beat the Seahawks for their 5th Super Bowl in Super Bowl 40. So let's just take a look at the play real quick. And you see Ben Roethlisberger starts in the I formation. He has, to his left, he has Antoine Randall, and to his right, I believe that's the backup running back for the Steelers back then.
That looks like Haynes.
Yeah, it was Haynes. That's who it was. And Hines Ward is moving in motion to the left and lining up right in kind of the slot area where Heath Miller's standing at. And then on the far side, you do have Cedric Wilson. So as the play goes, you see Randall L. He takes the snap, and he goes back to Ben, and Ben, all the time in the world to throw to a wide-open Cedric Wilson, put 6 on the board. Steelers would eventually go on and go to Indianapolis. Now we're going to break that play down here. As we saw in the Super Bowl this past weekend, Cam Newton and it was Ted Ginn Jr., they tried to do something similar. Ginn tried to go back to Newton, but he saw that that Denver's defense was collapsing on him and that they did a great job of covering Cam Newton, so a play couldn't be created. So we're going to start off right now, and as you see, this is the same formation that the Steelers were in, but except the Panthers, they ran it to the opposite side, to the right. So we're going to go how the Steelers ran it. And you see, you have the offensive line right here, you have your wide receiver, you have your tight end, and you have your wide receiver over there, and then another receiver in the backfield, your running back, and your quarterback, of course. So that's how the formation started off at. And then we're going to go to how it went. And then you had a motion with the tight end. Actually, it was with Ward, but you just can act like the tight end is not Heath Miller. Heath Miller's the wide receiver in this case, and then that's Hines Ward, just for that motion play. And then the next play, of course, you have the snap, and it goes right to Antoine Randall L. Haynes goes to his right. Ben rolls out to the back to his left. Next play. The offensive line gives a push, and then they start going back to their right. And Haynes is still going to his right. Ben's still moving to his left. And Randall L., he is still moving to the right. And then as Randall L. continues to have the ball, you start to see the receivers move downfield. So you see now the tight end now it's Heath Miller. Heath Miller stays down to block. You see Cedric Wilson, he starts to run, but he's not running full speed. He's acting like he's going to block. Hines is starting to cut across the middle of the field, acting like he's going to run a crossing route. Next, as the play develops, Ben is still rolling out to his left, all by himself. The line, they block right, and then they move left, and then here comes Randall L. going around. Randall L's there. Play still developing, goes back to Ben. You see Ward's creeping across the middle now, downfield. Cedric Wilson's wide open. Ben gets it off, and that's 6 for the Steelers.
Now, Blaine, the important part in this, why didn't it work for Carolina? What happened? Was it Denver's defense? Was it the initial pass by Cam Newton? What went wrong?
What went wrong with Carolina was Denver's defense. Against Cincinnati, they brought pressure and they did not fall for, in Cincinnati, they fell for the fake. So they actually thought that it was just going to be a regular run to the right, or that actually Randall L. was going to go deep. Carolina also, what they did was they just threw like a simple screen pass, and you kind of saw it coming. And like no receivers like fake going downfield or anything. You kind of saw it all happening there. So Denver's defense was able to say, let's just stay on Cam Newton just in case they try anything funny.
Well, I'm glad you blame the Denver's defense. I blame Carolina's offense. You know why?
Why?
When you run that play, you have to stay in between the hashes. That's the important part of the play.
Hey.
The play went too wide. When you go too wide, you allow for things to get stretched out in the defense for C. Just like a screen. the screen should never go outside the numbers. You want to stay inside to start so your blocking has time to set up.
Right.
Carolina went too wide. The blocking net didn't have time to set up. Since it was an overload here, they were able to read it, flow, take it out. So Cam Newton became that important part because they couldn't lay the initial block down.
Right.
Which is the key. You have to get the initial block down. So, Blaine, it's always fun having you. So, great job, Blaine. Coming up on the sideline, we're bringing our analyst for an in-depth look at the Super Bowl 50 and some of its key players.
If you're having trouble with your schoolwork this semester, there's a helpful place on campus that you should know about. On the 7th floor of Lawrence Hall is the Program for Academic Success, which provides services like tutoring and academic counseling. The program's Writing Center is specifically designed to help you with your writing assignments, and you can even get help for them online. Students are encouraged to stop in the office, give a call, or send an email.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
We are now back with Blaine King, Alex Martage, and sideline newcomer Sarah Maculin for the Pioneer Porters. Guys, we have a lot to talk about. Guys, what was everyone's impression of Cam Newton post-game? We'll start with the newcomer, Sarah.
I mean, definitely you had some nerves there, I feel like. I mean, he definitely didn't answer the questions thoroughly. That's what everyone's getting on him for. But you have to remember, he's pretty young. This is one of his first times in this type of position. I mean, you look back, there's been some argument about how back in Super Bowl 44, you had Peyton Manning, he came on, and after he lost, he didn't shake anyone's hand afterwards. So, I mean, he's definitely got a lot to learn. He's still young, but there's room to grow.
You said it, Sarah. I mean, Cam Newton is a young guy, and you know what? He's experienced nothing but success playing football thus far in his career. He won the Heisman Trophy in college. That very same season, he won the national championship. Going into the NFL, he's experienced greater and greater accomplishments every season. He's a sore loser, but you know what? He's still young, and he's got a lot of maturation.
I agree. Cam Newton, there's still time for him to grow. He has a great opportunity to learn from this because, I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Granted, yes, he should have just dealt with the questions because you knew in the situation, win or lose, you had to answer those questions. But, I mean, he'll learn from it, and hopefully he can grow from it. So there's room to grow.
I can't believe it. Any of you guys right now.
Listen, are we gonna get in how dare you to
Cam
Newton?
The dude's been in the league 5 years.
Yeah.
He's not a kid. He's 26 years old.
Belichick.
First off, my response to him will be my response to Peyton Manning. When Peyton Manning did that, are you a child? Are you a kid? Your job in your contract is to be respectful, is to answer the media questions, is to shake their hand. Do your job so we don't have to talk about this. When you don't do your job, I can complain about you. Now, Cam Newton, again, I will criticize you for being immature, the same way you were when you stole that laptop in Florida, the same way you were when you criticize everyone like you always do. So, Cam Newton, next year, no success for you. Now, guys, how do you feel about the rest of how do you guys feel about the rest of the Super Bowl?
I don't know how to answer from that. It was all right. Well, I mean, I can't say it was all right. It was a good Super Bowl. It was closer than what I expected it to be. I thought Carolina was going to rout Denver, but, I mean, defense wins championships. I actually have to admit that.
I mean, I agree with what you said. I completely thought that the Panthers were going to win. I didn't give Denver much hope. But, I mean, their defense played exactly like they did against the Patriots. I mean, Von Miller single-handedly beat the Patriots with the way he played defense. And that obviously earned him the MVP. So, I mean, wasn't one of the most exciting Super Bowl games I've seen, but, I mean, it was a good game. I'm glad they at least kept it close.
You guys said it. I mean, honestly, my impressions of this Super Bowl are meh. But guess what? It gave Peyton Manning the Hollywood Disney ending that, you know, we all really wanted to see for him, despite the fact that he did absolutely nothing.
And you know, we finally can put the rest. Peyton's better than Eli. We can finally say that.
Thank goodness.
You guys are all really soft. Get angry. Like, it was a mediocre Super Bowl at best. It wasn't the worst I've ever seen. It wasn't the best I've ever seen. It was another disappointment. And you know what the sad thing is? I have to say Paul Daniels was right. He knew Denver was going to win, but he's behind the camera giving me the finger point. All right, guys. Let's go to what's your impressions of Marshawn Lynch's legacy? What's Beast Mode's legacy? What's he leaving with?
A diva. That's all he was. He was a good running back in the NFL for a few seasons. He really hit his stride though with the Seahawks, obviously, and that's what he's going to be remembered for. Which was what, 10 seasons into his career. He definitely was a memorable player, but it was more for his personality. That's it.
I have to completely agree. I mean, granted, towards the end of his career that he struggled with, like you said, diva moments, but you have to look at his numbers. He has some of the best all-time postseason numbers. Since 2011, he's led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He's third in both rushes and rush yards. I mean, you have to think, you look back when he played against New Orleans in the wild card game in 2010, he had a 102-yard run after contact. I mean, he's second in the lead with that. I mean, I think his numbers speak for himself. Yeah, he struggled the past couple seasons with off-the-field issues and injuries, but, I mean, I think he leaves behind a great legacy.
Blaine, please offer a shake-up here. Say something I haven't heard.
I mean, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, because, but I will say,
he's not.
I mean, it's toss-up. But I will say this, yes, he kind of was a diva, but it was entertaining. I'll remember him for Skittles. I'll definitely remember him. I can't talk today.
All right.
Remember him for, like Sarah said, that run against the Saints. And, of course, we're always going to be like, what if Pete Carroll handed him the ball on the one-yard line?
Oh, gosh.
How dare you guys, especially you. God, you know, you call him a diva, you won't call Cam Newton a diva. Like, I'm separating myself from you guys. We're having a different opinion. Like, come on. All right. What's your impression of the Super Bowl class? Actually, you all probably agree here. Who do you think got snubbed? Please give me something different.
The Hall of Fame class, you mean?
Yeah,
yes,
Super Bowl class.
Oh, well, I mean, it's all the same. You guys have me all scatterbrained.
Terrell Owens was the biggest snub, obviously, of this class.
What?
Oh, without a doubt. Are you?
How?
Let me tell you.
Please explain.
I agree that Marvin Harrison is one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history. But do you know who he had for the 11 of his 13 seasons as a pro player? Peyton Manning. Do you know who Terrell Owens had his entire career?
Donovan McNabb. Jeff Garcia.
An inconsistent Donovan McNabb. Jeff Garcia, who was a Trent Dilfer.
He was a pro bowler.
Sarah, you're the voice in the middle.
He did it on his own.
I mean, as far as who got elected, I mean, Brett Favre, it was his first year of eligibility. He definitely deserved to be in it. Without a doubt. Terrell Owens, I agree completely. I think it was a big snub. I mean, granted, I think
we got a how dare you coming from Kyle.
It'll eventually come. It didn't have to be this year, but I mean, he has great numbers. So a lot of people talk about him about like his attitude and stuff like that. I mean, he's eventually going to be elected, but overall, I thought that was one of the biggest snubs.
And don't talk about Terrell Owens. I'm done.
I mean, I don't think T.O. gets in until Torrey Holt or Isaac Bruce gets in, first of all. But then I will say, if I had to say there was a snub, maybe I can probably say Kurt Warner, but I'm actually pretty impressed with the Hall of Fame class. Terrell Davis, he could also be another snub, but
really, Kurt Warner, his numbers are awful. He's not a Hall. You guys are all wrong. Absolutely every one of you. Yeah. You know the biggest snub? Jimmy Johnson. 3 rings. You know how many Tony Dungy has? 1.
Hey.
3-1. Build a franchise.
Does he have 2 rings?
Tony Dungy, bye-bye. No, he wasn't a coach, bro. We're talking about coaching. He got in as a what? Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm right. Thank you, sir, for having us. You win this debate. Don't do it for us. Be sure to tune in next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and of course the same Pioneer Sideline.
Bye, Blaine.
Bye.
Yeah, Blaine. Bye.